So you want to get a dev job, but you don't have any experience. And in order to get experience, you need a job. But you can't get a job because you don't have any experience. This can be very frustrating and intimidating for self-taught developers when they start looking for their first job with no industry experience or computer science degree. I'm going to tell you some of the things I did to help me build my resume and portfolio early on and land that first job. Hey, what's up everyone? I'm Dorian. If this is our first time meeting, this is my channel that I created to share my story and experience of being a self-taught developer to try to help motivate others out there who are grinding it out and learning how to code on their own. If you like what you see, make sure to subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. I just want to let everyone know that these are things that I did to build my portfolio and resume early on, which led me to land my first job. So I know for a fact that they did work for me. There's a lot of things that you could do to build your portfolio and resume. So this is not a end-all be-all list. It's just going to be mostly things that I did. And at the end of the video, I'm going to mention some things that I wanted to do but didn't get around to doing because I ended up getting a job and didn't have to. One of the first things that you can do is start building stuff for people that you know. I did this early on. I built websites for everyone that I knew that could use a website. My father-in-law was a handyman, so I built him a small, 3-page website. I had another buddy of mine, his sister was a hairdresser, and I asked if I could make a website for her, and I made her a website, and I ended up making another website for a buddy of mine that was a rapper who wanted to show off his SoundCloud and Instagram and have a .com that he could hand out to people and put on all of his stuff. So that was what I did early on. I built stuff for people that I knew because it was the easiest people to reach out to, and a lot of people won't turn down a free website, to be honest with you. Most people are pretty happy with it afterwards. Their expectations are low and it's free, so they can't really complain. I learned a lot of stuff doing this. Early on, I built everything from scratch because I didn't want to rely on building too much stuff with WordPress because I actually wanted to learn stuff. So I built all these sites with they were just static sites. I used HTML, CSS, a little bit of jQuery and JavaScript, and I think I was doing PHP at the time. This was way early on when I first started learning it. When I say PHP, I mean just enough PHP to render a static site for the most part, because that's what I did. And just a disclaimer about this, the only downfall to this is when you build free stuff for people, later on they might want you to update it or maybe add something to it, or add some images, or just like refresh or retouch up their site. It's still a good way to get a lot of experience that you can put on your resume for freelancing, which is what I did, and it was freelance work. I built sites for small businesses. I just happened to build them for free, but I had clients. I had something that I can show off on my portfolio. Even though a lot of this stuff was hideous at the time, it was what I knew, and it was enough to help me have those few extra things to talk about during my interview. So one of the other things I did when I was first trying to build my resume and portfolio was I would look for jobs everywhere, and I ended up finding a volunteer job on Craigslist, which was, it is what it is. I know that it was free work, and they were just basically looking for anyone with a pulse that would be willing to code for free, and that was me. And honestly, there was other people on there probably trying to do the same thing I was, which was build my portfolio and get a little bit of experience in a real code base, and I was able to do that. And it wasn't too bad, besides working for free, I was able to learn from a senior level developer on the few tasks that I did work on, and he ended up giving me a really nice letter of recommendation that I used at my first job that I got. It was really nice to have a reference from real experience development wise going into your first role, and that really helped me. It also gave me a little bit of confidence in what I had known, and being able to actually jump into a code base as big as it was for the first time was also really good for me. So I'm glad I did it. It worked out for me, and if I had to go back and do it again, I may do things different, and I would probably contribute to open source rather than work for free for someone else. But at the time, that's what I did, and it worked out for me, and I was able to use it on my resume, and I listed it on my portfolio as work that I'd done, and I got a letter of recommendation out of it, so it wasn't bad. All right, so at this point, I've been teaching myself to code for about 3 or 4 months. I built a bunch of websites for my friends and family members. I was volunteering occasionally on that website, getting experience in that code base. And this is when I felt confident enough to maybe test the waters freelancing. I had heard and watched videos that you can make a little bit of money as you learn to code on sites like Upwork and Freelancer. So that's what I did. I went on there and I started looking for work. The problem that I found with this was that those sites, anyone that's been on there, anyone that's worked on there, occasionally you could find good jobs. And if you have experience and you're a good freelancer, you might make a great living on these sites. But a lot of the time, it's a race to the bottom. And that's basically the kind of work that I was getting because I had no experience, and my portfolio, although there were a few things on it, was pretty weak. So I did a few what is it, Photoshop to HTML kind of jobs, and just very small little like CSS fixes and HTML stuff. And I was still intimidated by JavaScript, and I was scared to really take on anything that I wouldn't be able to complete. And I think I also built a couple WordPress sites, and I started finding that a lot of the work on there was WordPress work, and I didn't want to really keep doing WordPress stuff because although I had learned it and I built my blog at the time in WordPress, it wasn't something that I was trying to pursue. I just kind of used it to learn it really quickly and then move back to what I was trying to do, which was be a front-end software developer. And if I had kept on freelancing on Upwork and other sites like that, and Fiverr and all the other sites that I was using, I felt that I was eventually going to get stuck in that category of WordPress developers. And I know there's some WordPress developers out there that make great money and love what they do, but it's not what I was trying to do at the time. So and plus the money sucked on Upwork. The money I was making was not worth my time at all. I honestly would have rather built more free sites for friends and family members, or even organizations in my neighborhood, or someone else other than the pennies that I was working for on Upwork. I think I ended up doing less than 10 jobs total, and totally not worth it. If you decide to, you can test the waters. Let me know down in the comments what your experiences have been working on those kind of sites, and I'd like to know, because I did not have a good experience early on, and I think I tried later on, maybe a few years ago, to try to get some work on there, and I built one WordPress site and I was like, I remember why I hate this. So I haven't been on there. I have hired people on Upwork, and I've been doing that recently for my niche sites, which I'll talk about in other videos, and I'll probably link somewhere around here when I do. So check those out whenever. So now I've been learning how to code for about 6 months now. I'm feeling pretty good, but I'm starting to see where I'm lacking in my skill set, because up until now I've really been focusing on a lot of like HTML and CSS stuff, and I would attempt to really learn JavaScript, but I would get intimidated when I came across a really hard problem. And I was doing a lot of tutorials, and I was kind of like stuck in tutorial hell when it came to JavaScript, and I was enjoying a lot of the HTML and CSS stuff, and I realized that at this point, my best bet, after I had built sites for people, after I had volunteered on the website I was volunteering on, after I worked a bit on Upwork, I kind of hunkered down, and I decided the best thing that I can do for myself right now is to build stuff for my resume, for myself, build my own projects, code things from scratch that I can show off and talk about. And that's what I did. I just learned a bunch of JavaScript. I worked through all the stuff that was on Free Code Camp for JavaScript. I did Wes Boss's JavaScript 30 at the time. I consumed as much JavaScript as I could. I was reading books on JavaScript. JavaScript was my life for like 2.5 months, until I then decided to start learning React, which is JavaScript, but I decided to get off of vanilla and finally start learning a little bit about frameworks. And React was really popular. There was a lot of jobs where I was at in Vegas for Reacts, and there was a really good meetup for React. So I decided that, I'm gonna go to this meetup, and I'm gonna start learning React, because that was just a framework at the time that I decided to go with. And I'm glad I did. And this was really good, because this helped me build my portfolio, and I had so much more to talk about with the projects that I built myself. I built stuff in JavaScript like calculators and weather widgets, and I learned how to use APIs, and I just learned how to program. and that was really beneficial for me. There was so much more value in that than, you know, the little CSS jobs that I was doing on freelancing websites, or the occasional WordPress site that people would want me to do. There was just so much more value in the stuff that I built, actually programming in the programming language that I wanted to get a job in, which is key. Build stuff in the language that you want to work in. A lot of people, you know, they're all over the place. Early on they build stuff in everything. They can't focus on one language. In my other videos I talk about like picking one language and sticking to it, and don't jump around between languages until you're comfortable with at least one. So make sure that you follow that, because it's very important early on. All right, so one really cool way that you can build some resume experience and put some stuff on your portfolio is look in your neck of the woods. You can even look, you know, online. Look for a nonprofit organization. Look for animal shelters. You know, if you're religious and you attend church, a lot of churches, they might have websites. Just look for anyone that you think could, you know, benefit from having a website that you would like to help out. Trust me, there's a lot of great organizations out there that can use a hand in, you know, updating their website, or, you know, even just making it look a little bit nicer. A lot of nonprofits have very old, crappy looking websites. And if you went in there and you spruced it up a little bit with a little HTML and CSS early on, when you don't know much else, you can do this and you can show a nice before and after on a portfolio, and they probably like it very much. Even just kind of installing Bootstrap and throwing some Bootstrap on an old project like that will just make it look a lot better just by doing that. So it's little things that you can do like that to help out in your area, or just for a good cause. Also with Free Code Camp, they kind of do something similar to this, where you can volunteer for nonprofits through Free Code Camp, which is also a really cool thing to do. Another thing I wish I would have done early on, instead of volunteering at that Craigslist website that I you know, volunteered at, I wish I would have contributed to open source projects instead. I was very intimidated about open source projects. At the time, I felt like I didn't know anything, and I would try to find, you know, easy for beginner kind of bugs and fixes, or features that you know, open source projects needed. And I used a lot of those websites, which I'll link down below because I don't remember off the top of my head, that kind of like find you good beginner open source projects to contribute to. But I never felt confident enough for it, and then I started kind of doing other things that were occupying my time and accomplishing the same thing for me, resume and portfolio wise. So I didn't get around to contributing to open source. Now I'm super busy. I got, you know, the 2 kids, I got a wife, full-time job. I'm trying to do this stuff, and every time like Hacktober comes around, I'm always like, oh man, I should really do this and get my t-shirt. And who knows, maybe this year with this channel I'll hold myself accountable and I'll start a Hacktober. You know, follow me and code with me and contribute to open source, just to make up for those times that I wish I would have when I was first learning out and had time to do it, because I felt like I missed out by not doing that. It's really cool. Open source free code is a beautiful thing, and open source projects are a great thing, and it's great to contribute to things that you use. And yeah, so if you want to gain some experience early on, don't be intimidated like I was, and jump in there into those open source projects. You know, if you're using Free Code Camp, I use Free Code Camp a bunch, so I'm always going to talk about Free Code Camp in my videos. But if you used Free Code Camp is open source. Check out their GitHub. They have a ton of issues always open on there. Pick something up. Everyone's super helpful. They'll walk you through it. Don't be scared like I was, because that's all it was. I was scared that I was going to fail, and I never tried. And honestly, I probably would have learned a bunch if I would have just done some open source stuff earlier on. Just jump in right away. Like if you've got a month worth of coding under your belt, just find something and just, you know, just say, I'm doing this, I'm taking this bug, I'm taking this feature, and just tell them, I'm new, I'm gonna need help. Most of the time, they'll be like, sure, go for it. Let us know what you need. So don't be scared to contribute to open source, trust me. All right, so that wraps it up for how I gained experience when I was learning how to code, and used that to build a resume and portfolio, which led me to getting my first job. I hope that you found this content useful, and if it brought you any value, please, you know, make sure to like and subscribe, And if you want to hear me talk about anything else, please let me know in the comments below. And if there's something that you did to land your first job or build your resume that you think should be on this list, list it down below as well. I'm curious to see what other people out there did to, gain that experience to get that first dev job. I've now been working in the field for 3 years. I have a lot to talk about, and I would love to share my experience with you. So with that said, I'll see you next time, and hope you enjoyed.